The town was forgotten, erased from maps and memories, shrouded in mist and silence. It clung to the edge of a desolate moor, a cluster of crooked houses with boarded-up windows. The wind howled through empty streets, carrying whispers of a troubled past. This was a place where secrets lingered, buried deep beneath the earth, a place where darkness whispered. The townsfolk, those who remained, spoke in hushed tones of a curse, a blight upon the land. Their eyes, filled with ancient sorrow, spoke of a history steeped in pain and regret. They knew the truth, the terrible truth that haunted their dreams. They knew the name that sent shivers down their spines, Blackwood. On a windswept hill overlooking the town stood Blackwood Estate, a mansion of grandeur and decay. Its silhouette, stark against the stormy sky, was a jagged wound upon the landscape. The once bright facade was now weathered and grey, the windows like vacant eyes staring out at the world. The estate had once been the heart of the town, a beacon of prosperity and joy, but that was a lifetime ago. Now it was a decaying monument to a tragic past, a place of whispers and shadows where the veil between worlds wore thin. Twisted trees clawed at the walls, their branches like skeletal fingers reaching out to claim the unwary. The iron gates, rusted and overgrown with thorns, stood open like the jaws of a hungry beast. They beckoned you closer, dared you to cross the threshold into the heart of darkness. Locals told tales of strange lights and eerie sounds emanating from the estate. They spoke of a malevolent presence that lingered within its walls, a darkness that seeped into your very bones and chilled you to the core. It was said that the Blackwood family, once the pride of the town, had been consumed by their own ambition. They had delved into forbidden knowledge, sought power in the darkest of places, and in doing so, they had unleashed a horror that could never be contained. Now, the Blackwood Estate stood as a warning, a testament to the insatiable hunger of darkness and the terrible price of forbidden knowledge. It was a place where the living dared not tread and the dead found no peace. The storm raged, mirroring the turmoil brewing in the hearts of four friends. Alex, the charismatic leader, dared them all. Sarah, the skeptic, masked her fear with cynicism. Jake, always seeking thrills, hid his unease behind bravado. And Emily, the sensitive one, couldn't shake the feeling of dread that clung to her like a shroud. Blackwood Estate. The name itself was a whisper in the night, a promise of something sinister. It was the ultimate test of courage, a dare whispered in the dead of night. They vowed to spend the night within its decaying walls, to confront the darkness head-on. The wind howled, a mournful cry that echoed their own anxieties. Rain lashed down, blurring the world into an impressionist nightmare. Each step towards the estate felt heavy, a physical manifestation of their growing trepidation. But there was no turning back. The dare had been made, the challenge accepted. They were young, invincible in their own minds. They would conquer their fears, laugh in the face of darkness. They would live to tell the tale. Little did they know, the estate had other plans.
All right, let's do this. No turning back now.
Alex, ever the leader, shouldered open the creaking gates. His bravado masked a flicker of unease in his eyes. He carried himself with an air of confidence, but the tremor in his hand betrayed his true feelings. He was determined to see this through, to prove his bravery, even as a shiver ran down his spine.
This is ridiculous. It's just an old house.
Sarah, armed with her wit and skepticism, followed closely behind. She scoffed at the legends, dismissed them as mere superstition. But beneath her facade of indifference, a seed of doubt had been planted. The oppressive atmosphere, the palpable sense of dread, chipped away at her carefully constructed wall of disbelief.
Come on, it's just a bit of fun. What's the worst that could happen?
Jake, adrenaline coursing through his veins, relished the thrill of the unknown. He was drawn to danger like a moth to a flame, his senses heightened by the anticipation of the unknown. He joked to mask his nervousness, his laughter echoing unnaturally in the stillness of the approaching night.
I don't know about this, guys. Something feels off.
Emily, her intuition screaming at her to turn back, trailed behind the group. She was the most attuned to the unseen world, her senses overwhelmed by the palpable darkness that emanated from the estate. Every fibre of her being screamed at her to run, to escape the encroaching shadows. The air grew heavy as they approached the house, thick with the scent of decay and something ancient, something inherently wrong. The wind seemed to whisper warnings, carrying with it the scent of damp earth and the faintest hint of something metallic, something akin to blood.
Do you guys smell that? It's like blood.
The oak door groaned inwards as if wounded, revealing a glimpse into the darkness within. The foyer, once grand, now lay in ruins, dust-covered furniture draped in cobwebs, portraits on the walls staring down accusingly. It was a glimpse into a forgotten era, a mausoleum of memories.
This place, it's like a tomb.
They stepped inside, their footsteps echoing in the oppressive silence. The door slammed shut behind them, the sound final, absolute. Fear, cold and sharp, pierced through their bravado. They were trapped. The darkness seemed to press in on them, a living entity. The air grew cold, biting at exposed skin. The smell of damp earth intensified, mingled with the cloying scent of decay and something else, something unidentifiable and wholly unpleasant. It was the smell of fear, their fear.
We're not alone in here, are we?
I can feel it too. Something's watching us.
Their flashlights cut through the oppressive darkness, beams dancing over dusty furniture and threadbare tapestries. Each step was a descent into the belly of a beast, the silence broken only by the creak of floorboards and the frantic thump of their own hearts.
Stay close, everyone. We need to keep moving.
Alex, ever the leader, pushed forward. His flashlight beam darted nervously, catching motes of dust dancing in the stale air. He tried to ignore the whispers that seemed to emanate from the very walls themselves, whispers that spoke of unspeakable horrors and long-forgotten sins.
Did you hear that, those whispers?
Sarah, her skepticism waning with each passing moment, clung to Jake's arm. The darkness seemed to amplify her every fear, transforming the mundane into the monstrous. Shadows danced at the edge of her vision, taking on grotesque and menacing forms.
It's just the house settling, I think.
Jake, his bravado faltering, tried to focus on the thrill of the unknown. But the sheer weight of the house, its oppressive silence and palpable sense of dread, was beginning to chip away at his resolve. He felt a cold hand close around his heart, squeezing the air from his lungs.
I feel like we're being watched. We need to get out of here.
Emily, trailing behind the group, felt a chill run down her spine. She couldn't shake the feeling of being watched, of being hunted. The air grew thick with unseen menace, and she swore she could hear the echo of her own heartbeat in the deafening silence. The mansion was a labyrinth of twisting corridors and interconnected rooms, each one a decaying testament to a forgotten grandeur. They wandered aimlessly, their senses heightened, their nerves stretched taut. The air hung heavy with the weight of unseen eyes.
This place is a maze. We need to find a way out.
They stumbled upon a library, its shelves lined with leather-bound books. The musty smell of aged paper filled the air, a stark contrast to the chilling emptiness that permeated the rest of the house. Alex ran his fingers along the spines, each book a sealed tomb of forgotten knowledge.
Look at all these books. What secrets do they hold?
A grand piano sat in the corner, its keys coated in a thick layer of dust. Emily, drawn to its melancholic beauty, gently pressed a key. The sound that emerged was a discordant jangle, a tortured cry that seemed to echo the mansion's own torment.
That sound, it's like the house is crying.
A sudden crash from upstairs sent a jolt of fear through the group. They froze, flashlights trained on the doorway, silence. Then, the sound of retreating footsteps, heavy and deliberate. Someone or something was stalking them.
We need to get out of here, now.
Agreed. Let's move quickly.
Their pursuit of the noise led them to a dusty attic, its only light filtering through cracks in the boarded-up windows. Cobwebs hung like macabre decorations, and the air was thick with the smell of decay and something else, something ancient and evil.
On the far wall, scrawled in what appeared to be dried blood, was a symbol. It was intricate and unsettling, a series of interlocking circles and triangles that seemed to writhe and contort before our eyes. The sight of it sent a shiver down our spines.
What is that? It looks like something out of a nightmare.
I don't know, but I don't like it.
Emily, her eyes fixed on the symbol, felt a wave of dizziness wash over her. The air seemed to crackle with unseen energy, and the symbol seemed to pulsate with a life of its own. She reached out a hand as if in a trance, her fingers tracing the outline of the symbol.
Emily, don't!
But it was too late. As Emily's fingers made contact with the symbol, a surge of energy erupted from the wall, throwing her backward into the darkness. The attic was plunged into absolute blackness. Darkness consumed them. The attic, once faintly lit by the storm outside, became a black void. Fear, sharp and cold, gripped their hearts. Emily's scream echoed in the darkness, cut short, leaving a chilling silence in its wake.
Emily.
Alex's voice, thick with panic, sliced through the darkness. He scrambled towards the spot where Emily had been standing, his hands outstretched, searching for any sign of her. The only response was the echo of his own terror. Sarah, her skepticism shattered, clung to Jake. Her breath came in ragged gasps, her eyes wide with terror. The darkness seemed to press in on them, suffocating, filled with unseen menace. The air itself felt heavy, charged with an unnatural energy. Jake, his bravado long gone, fumbled for his flashlight. The beam, when he finally found it, trembled, casting grotesque shadows that danced and writhed on the attic walls. Fear, primal and overwhelming, threatened to consume him. They huddled together, a small island of light in the sea of darkness. Each rustle, each creak of the floorboards sent shivers down their spines. The air was thick with the weight of their fear, a tangible presence in the suffocating blackness. Alex, his heart pounding in his chest, stumbled upon a solid object. It was a heavy, ornately carved door, concealed by the darkness and the passage of time. He traced the outline with his fingers, feeling the cold, rough wood beneath his fingertips.
Help me with this.
His voice was hoarse with fear. Jake and Sarah, their faces pale and drawn, joined him. Together, they pushed against the heavy door. It groaned in protest, as if disturbed after a long sleep, and slowly swung inwards. A sliver of light, faint and flickering, emanated from the room beyond. They stepped through the doorway, their flashlights cutting through the gloom, revealing a small, dusty chamber. The room was small and circular, its walls lined with shelves stacked high with antique books and strange, unsettling artifacts. The air was thick with the smell of dust and decay, but there was something else, something faintly sweet and undeniably sinister. A single flickering candle illuminated the center of the room, casting long dancing shadows that stretched and contorted like living things. And there, standing against the far wall, was a mirror. It was tall and narrow, its frame crafted from dark, polished wood.
What's that over there?
The mirror's surface was clouded with age, but as they watched, the dust seemed to clear, revealing a reflection that was both familiar and deeply unsettling. It showed the room as it was, yet everything was subtly wrong. The shadows were deeper, the candlelight more intense, and the reflections of Alex, Sarah, and Jake, they were smiling.
This isn't right.
Sarah, drawn to the mirror as if in a trance, stepped forward. Her hand reached out, her fingers brushing against the cold glass. The reflection smiled wider, a grotesque, mocking grin that sent a chill down her spine.
"Sarah, don't!"
Jake whispered, his voice strained. But Sarah didn't seem to hear. Her eyes were fixed on the reflection, her entire being consumed by the image in the glass. It was as if the mirror had ensnared her, stolen a part of her soul. Panic surged through Alex and Jake. Sarah, her gaze locked with her eerie reflection, seemed oblivious to their pleas. The air in the room crackled with an unseen energy, the scent of decay intensifying, turning almost sweet, nauseating. Jake, fear lending him unexpected strength, pulled Sarah back from the mirror. Her eyes, glazed over just moments ago, snapped back into focus. Confusion clouded her features, then a dawning horror as she registered the terrified faces of her friends.
What happened?
The floorboards beneath their feet groaned, a low rumble that seemed to emanate from the very foundations of the house. The candle flame sputtered, casting grotesque shadows that danced and writhed on the walls. The mirror, no longer reflecting their images, now showed only a swirling vortex of darkness.
We need to get out of here.
Alex said, his voice barely a whisper. He turned to leave, but the doorway that led back into the attic was gone. The shelves that lined the walls seemed to press in on them, closing off their only escape. Desperation clawed at Alex, a primal urge to escape the suffocating confines of the room. He pushed against the shelves, but they were solid, immovable. His heart pounded against his ribs, a frantic rhythm against the deafening silence that had descended upon the room. A low, guttural growl, barely audible, sent shivers down their spines. It seemed to originate from beneath their feet, vibrating through the floorboards, resonating in their very bones. The air grew colder, a bone-chilling cold that seemed to seep into their lungs with every breath.
What's happening? We need to find a way out.
The floorboards in the center of the room buckled, groaning under an unseen weight. Dust rained down from the ceiling as a section of the floor gave way, revealing a gaping maw of darkness. The stench of decay intensified, now laced with the unmistakable metallic tang of blood.
What is that?
Sarah whispered, her voice trembling. She peered into the darkness, her flashlight beam swallowed by the abyss. A cold draught snaked up from the opening, carrying with it whispers too faint to decipher, yet heavy with malice. Fear propelled them towards the gaping hole, their only path now leading down, deeper into the bowels of Blackwood Estate.
All right, everyone, stay close.
Alex, his heart pounding against his ribs, took the lead, his flashlight beam cutting through the inky blackness.
Watch your step. These stairs look like they could give way any second.
A set of rickety stairs, barely visible in the dim light, descended into the abyss. The air grew heavy with moisture, and the smell of decay intensified. a nauseating blend of damp earth, mildew, and something else, something ancient and evil.
Ugh, this smell, it's unbearable.
The basement was a cavernous space, its darkness absolute. Alex's flashlight beam illuminated only a small circle of the room, revealing walls of rough-hewn stone and a dirt floor.
This place gives me the creeps.
In the center of the room sat a large iron-bound chest. It was ornately carved, depicting scenes of grotesque creatures and writhing human figures.
Look at this thing. What do you think's inside?
The chest pulsed, not a physical beat, but an emanation of unholy energy. It drew Jake in, a moth to a sinister flame. He circled it slowly, flashlight beam tracing the grotesque carvings. Each figure seemed to writhe and contort under his gaze, their silent screams echoing in his mind.
Don't touch it, Jake.
Sarah whispered, her voice tight with apprehension. She stood back, a sense of foreboding tightening its grip on her. The air hung heavy, thick with a palpable sense of menace, as if the very walls themselves were watching, waiting.
I just want to see...
But Jake, ever the thrill-seeker, was already reaching for the padlock. His fingers, trembling slightly, traced the cold, rusted metal. A jolt, like a static shock, shot up his arm as he touched it. He recoiled, a startled cry escaping his lips.
What was that?
Alex asked, his voice tight. He stepped closer, peering at the chest with a mixture of curiosity and trepidation. The carvings seemed to writhe more urgently now, their silent pleas for release growing stronger. Ignoring their warnings, Jake gave the padlock a sharp twist. It snapped open with a groan, as if relieved to be free of its burden. The lid of the chest creaked open slowly, revealing its contents. The smell hit them first, a wave of decay and something else, something ancient and undeniably evil.
What is this?
Inside, nestled amongst yellowed parchment and tarnished silver, lay a collection of masks. Each one was unique, crafted with macabre artistry to resemble skulls, demons, and creatures that defied description. Their empty eyes seemed to stare back at them, filled with a malevolent intelligence.
Masks?
Sarah breathed, her voice a mix of fascination and disgust. She reached out a tentative hand as if to touch one, but Alex pulled her back.
Don't. Something feels wrong, very wrong.
As if in answer, the temperature in the basement plummeted. The air grew thick and oppressive, difficult to breathe. The shadows from their flashlights danced and twisted, taking on a life of their own. And then they heard it, a low guttural growl echoing up from the depths of the house.
Did you hear that?
The hunt had begun. Panic seized them. The growl echoed through the basement, a primal sound that spoke of a hunger both ancient and insatiable. The masks in the chest seemed to vibrate, a low hum emanating from their grotesque visages. Their eyes, once empty sockets, now flickered with an eerie, malevolent light. The floor trembled beneath their feet, the vibrations intensifying, mirroring the frantic beat of their hearts. The air crackled with an unseen energy, a palpable sense of dread pressing down on them, suffocating them.
We need to get out of here now.
Alex yelled, his voice barely audible above the growing cacophony. He turned to lead the way back up the rickety stairs, but as he did, the basement began to distort. The walls, once solid stone, rippled and buckled, transforming into grotesque parodies of faces. The shadows stretched and twisted, morphing into clawing hands that reached out towards them, eager to drag them into the darkness. They scrambled back, their eyes wide with terror, as the room around them dissolved into a swirling vortex of madness. The air crackled and popped, filled with the scent of ozone and something else, something ancient and foul. The temperature plummeted, the icy cold seeping into their bones, stealing their warmth, their breath. The mirror, once reflecting their fear-stricken faces, now pulsed with an eerie, otherworldly light. The surface rippled like water disturbed by a falling stone, the reflection fragmenting, revealing glimpses of a realm beyond comprehension. Emily, her eyes drawn to the mirror as if in a trance, stumbled towards it. Her hand, as if guided by an unseen force, reached out, fingers brushing against the cold glass. A jolt of energy, raw and powerful, surged through her, lifting her from the ground.
Emily, no!
Sarah screamed, reaching out to grab her friend, but it was too late. The mirror's surface enveloped Emily, swallowing her whole. She vanished with a final, desperate scream, leaving behind only the echoing silence of the abyss. Silence. Heavy, absolute silence descended upon the basement, broken only by the ragged gasps of Alex and Sarah. The air, still thick with the stench of ozone and decay, crackled with residual energy, the echo of Emily's screams lingering like phantom whispers. The masks in the open chest hummed, their painted eyes burning with an infernal light. They seemed to leer at Alex and Sarah, their grotesque visages contorted into expressions of triumph and mockery. The shadows, no longer dancing, clung to the walls, their forms shifting, taking on the semblance of watchful figures. Alex, his face ashen, stared at the spot where Emily had vanished. His mind recoiled, unable to grasp the reality of what had transpired. One moment she was there, her fear palpable, the next gone, swallowed whole by the malevolent entity residing within the mirror. Sarah, her initial shock giving way to a primal terror, backed away from the chest, from the gaping maw of the hidden staircase. She wanted to scream, to rage against the injustice, but the sound died in her throat, choked by the suffocating fear that threatened to consume her. They fled, their escape fueled by adrenaline and a primal need to escape the suffocating presence of the Blackwood Estate. Up the rickety stairs, each creak a harbinger of their impending doom. Through the labyrinthine corridors, their footsteps echoing in the oppressive silence. The house fought back, walls shifted, blocking their escape, doors slammed shut before them, their way barred by an unseen force. Whispers followed them, chilling their blood, whispering their names, taunting them with their impending fate. They never escaped. The Blackwood Estate claimed them, as it had claimed so many before. Their laughter, their dreams, their youthful arrogance, consumed by the darkness that permeated every inch of the cursed mansion. The Blackwood Estate still stands, a monument to ambition and the folly of seeking forbidden knowledge. Its windows are dark, lifeless eyes staring out at the desolate moor. And within its walls whispers linger, echoing the terror of those lost souls trapped forever within its grasp. The Blackwood legacy endures, a testament to the insatiable hunger of darkness.